Oh, all right. Wow. We're just chit-chatting here in the background, guys. So all good. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, a Brew Crew. I'm Eric, N1JUR, and I'm with
I'm Shannon, KC1OHT here in the US, or 2 Echo Zero Oscar Hotel Tango in the UK.
and
And
put it on
I
a shirt.
only say that because I know it drives Eric crazy.
Get it on a shirt, put it on a mug. We'll all be happy. I'm just going to put a scroll ticker that's just going to scroll across so it goes faster and you have to read it at that pace. You become like my micro machines guy if you remember what
Listen,
that means.
people already say I talk fast, so I don't know what your
Yeah,
problem is. I could talk way
whatever.
slower.
I don't think you talk fast at all. Try again. We'll match up against micro machines and see how it goes. All right. Well, this is Brew Activate, folks. If you're watching live, say hello in the chat. Good morning to folks. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Shannon, who do we have this morning with us?
Who don't we have? We have the usual suspects. Sean, not Shane,
Yes.
AA4AT. We got Roger McKeon. We got Jabberjaw, Shannon K1LY. And I think, we got Hamman CT also. And that's about it right now,
Okay.
unless we have some people lurking in
Maybe.
chat and not talking, which is always possible.
Shannon, we always love the T-shirt ideas for sure. We'll definitely, we'll have to workshop that one again. You got to get Shannon working on more of those because she
Well,
comes out with these great ideas, but then it just kind of like goes away and nothing gets done, and it gets on my shoulder. So push it
no,
off to her.
maybe you know what? Maybe we should show on the show my latest T-shirt idea that I
Ah,
made from what was it last week or 2 weeks ago? The I am YL, hear me roar. That was a
wonderful
pretty
idea.
good
We could do
one.
that right now. So like while you're just catch us up a little bit, I'm gonna go grab the
Yeah.
share screen here.
Yeah, so
Let me go.
let's talk about my ham radio week. So for anyone
Yes.
that doesn't know, I was on Ham Nation on Wednesday. My segment, if you didn't see it, starts around 28 minutes in,
Yep.
and I was with Amanda Alden talking about the International Women's Day Wild POTA party, talking about women in ham radio, and also talking about the YLWWA award, not award, event that's
Yes.
coming up March 9th to March 15th. So it was a really, really awesome, great experience. I'm so excited to probably be back on Ham Nation again next in 2 weeks. So
That's
Wednesday,
a
March
girls show, right?
11th. Yep, it's gonna be all YL episode of Ham Nation, so super excited about that.
Nice.
And I got an offer to be a correspondent for Amateur Radio Newsline and read out some news stories on there. So I can't wait to hopefully get more involved with that. So be on the lookout.
Yeah.
And yeah, good morning to Rick's Ham Shack, lurking and driving, always okay. Ham
Yep.
Man CT, even if you missed Ham Nation, you can always watch it on the replay. And I think they put it out as a podcast too. I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know. I think maybe I'll have to look,
yeah,
but
yeah, we'll have to look into that. But it seems like you might have the t-shirts and sweatshirts queued up. So if
I
you want to
do.
show that,
We're just gonna cover
um,
us up because these are way more important. So yeah, here we go.
yeah.
Fire away, talk.
Yeah, so I always make a long sleeve version now since Shannon Jabberjaw said that she likes long sleeves. So you want to zoom in a little bit there, Eric, so that we can really see the shirt. So we have I am YL, hear me roar, inspired by who was it? I think Bricker said something, and it made me think of that. So I have that in a few different colors. I had to do lighter colors on this one because it worked out better with the graphic.
Mm.
So you got a few different colors in that. And then you also have the t-shirt version as well for those of us who like t-shirts.
In many
So
pastel type colors.
the t-shirts had a few more color options. So if you like the 70s, if you like radio, and if you are a YL, you might like the I am YL t-shirt, along with many other t-shirts. We have, our ham equipment shirt, and then of course our International Women's Day Wild POTA party shirt, and
Yeah,
the
this
POTA.
one
Yeah,
gotta get this.
POTA, this is how I roll shirt. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, this
my
is a
my My hardest choice now is gonna be, should I get the Women's Day POTA shirt in pink or green? So, I gotta
Okay.
figure out what color I'm gonna get that as. I'm liking the green lately because it goes with the red hair, those contrasting colors across from each other on the, color wheel. You gotta think about these things when you're
Yes,
putting
sure.
your look together.
All righty. Well, yeah, with that, there's always obviously the brew and activate stuff, but I don't want to overshadow that because that's not what we're talking about here now. So, yeah, go away. Remove from scene. Why are you still
So
there? Okay. Oh, I see. Got it.
so, Hamman, if we wanna make March the month of the YL, why not? Sounds good to me.
Yeah, good
Um
idea.
Because it does sound like there's 2 big, YL events going on that, in the month of March, so, we're good with that, and, yeah, we talked about Ham Nation,
Mm. Yeah,
and,
so you're very much broadening your base, getting your name out there, having some fun. Definitely good to see more YLs on the air and doing more stuff in the limelight, overshadowing us our old white, 50, gray hair demographic. And doing some really cool stuff. I've been seeing a lot of videos with POTA Power, and I think she's got a video coming up with Ham Radio Chick that they're going to go do a dual activation, which I think sometime today, I think I saw. So looking forward to watching that. And definitely, because we're just going to keep this train rolling, if you haven't already, head over to Live Free and Ham on YouTube and subscribe there, because we're going to be doing the big old YL POTA Party, if I could talk today. And that's going to be live streamed on Friday. So that should be coming out soon. So make sure you come be a part of that, because that's going to be a freaking awesome time. I mean, the list keeps growing, and I'm super excited. Now, if we can only get the YLs to send, I sent out a nice little email to all of them asking for a few little bio information pics, and you think I get anything? I got chirp, chirp, chirp. My apologies. I got one person to respond, and she's in this chat. Not talking about this one. I'm talking about Jabberjaw. She sent me stuff. So, for those that are out there, come on. We need more content. So anyway. All right. Well, let's just kind of get back.
Shannon said she responded.
I did, and I said she was the one that only responded. I was pointing to you. So if I can point to the right side, you girl, you got the email. I know you did, and I appreciate you responding, Jabberjaw, not the other one. Anyway, so all right, let's get this train back on the tracks here. So this is Brew and Activate. It's our real world POTA talk. We talk about the wins, the slow days, the weird stuff, as always, because that's what makes the show awesome. And the lessons we always learn by doing. So whether you activate your hunt or you're just POTA curious, well then, gosh, you're in the right place for sure. So let's kind of do a little quick housekeeping here before we kind of get into our last section and our last kind of part of the puzzle of hunters. I know you guys have been hanging on. A lot of the folks that are in our chat are activators. Some do a little hunting, but maybe if you come here and you are a dedicated hunter, well, this is going to be your last piece that we're going to kind of dedicate in this series to talk about hunters, mainly for the idea that I'm trying to help educate our activators so they understand the mind of a hunter better, and that they can, effectively leverage what they've gathered here and go out and, effectively do better activations, knowing what they know is part of half the battle, I think, is what G.I. Joe used to say growing up. Anyway. So, and if you want to be part of this, we always want to let you know that, hey, if you can't catch this live on Friday mornings, we always have the replay. We got our podcast over there. So just fire up your podcast player choice and search Brew and Activate, and you'll find us there. Every time this episode's we wrap up every Friday, I release that out. So you'll be able to continue to listen to us live and unfettered, and catch up on all the episodes. So there's always that. And as always, heck, make sure you like and subscribe both my channel and this girlie's over here, because in essence, she is definitely been doing a lot in the ham radio community. So show her some love. Make sure you subscribe to her channel, and maybe we can get her to do a little bit more content, whether it's tank related or not, all good. So, okay, with that, let's kind of dive into our favorite little segment here that we call the POTA Minute. All right. It's time for the POTA Minute. It's the one small POTA idea, one real world observation, about 60 seconds, no more, no less, just to get you thinking. I like throwing these things out here because every once in a while I get a little feedback on them and people are like, I like that. That was really good. Sat with me. Well, again, there's no right answer. We just start to see stuff we start to notice a little bit more after a few activations, or maybe that few hundredth hunt. Maybe if this happened to you, say so in the chat. Let me know. If you do it differently, even better. So let's get with the POTA Minute today. We're going to talk what digital modes are good at. This is always a kind of an after-the-fact topic, I think, a lot of times when we talk about activators that are primarily CW or sideband guys or gals. But we're going to talk about what digital modes are good at. Digital modes are great tools. Let's consider that exactly, with that statement. It's a tool. They save activations when conditions are tough and time is limited. And I have to say, yes, 100% there. That has saved my bacon many a time when I can whip out my digital laptop and be able to do FT8 to catch those last few extra contacts to be able to save the activation there. And they're also a great way to check that your station is working. We've talked about that too as well when we said, hey, using things like Whisper, and all of those great modes. And we could probably dive into a little bit more of a detailed tool set when it comes to stuff like that if folks are interested in doing a digital, kind of deep dive discussion on all those tools, as well as, being able to do digital in the field. So just remember, every mode teaches you something different about your setup. So, all right. With that, back to it.
So I would just like to say I just had a stroke of inspiration, and I don't want us to get demonetized
Should I call 911?
Demonetized for copyright infringement. But you guys know the song the Venga Bus? The Venga Bus is coming. Well, I just thought of the Wild Bus is coming, and
we can
all
do
the
that.
bands are jumping.
We just need to engage Grouch. He's good about creating music. Is that the Wild Bus is coming, or is that going to, you're not going to do a theme song around, the She Shed option yet?
I don't know. Listen, I like the YL Bus, okay? I was a big Venga Boys fan back in the mid 90s.
Why am I not surprised? All right. Well, we'll workshop that one a little bit there and see what we can come up with. Maybe that's your new segment instead of just the She Shed, or the
YL Bus.
The YL Bus.
And then it'll go along with the theme song. See, this is brainstorming.
I know, right? Real time, folks. You're seeing it here. See the smoke pouring out my ears? All right. Okay. So let's just do a little quick thing here. Obviously, hey, we want to continue this conversation. We always, appreciate you heading on over to our Discord there as well. That link here is posted there in the chat. What the heck? Why did that give me a weird one? Okay. Got it. Apparently, EV Mux is giving me some weird errors. Ignore me. Anyway, with that, back to the fact that, hey, we always try to continue these conversations and continue to support one another there. And the way we do that is over on our Discord. So come be a part of that Discord. There's some great stuff over there. Always enjoy meeting new members. And we can always talk about ham radio and other ham radio POTA related events because we're big and wide. We do a bunch of different things over there.
Or, talk about off-topic things because we have many off-topic
we do
channels
that too
also.
as well. Somehow those rabbit holes happen a lot. Okay, well, one little thing there. So let's get into our last topic, or last segment of this Hunter series. I appreciate everybody who's been hanging out there in the chat and being part of this process. I know it's a little different, a little bit out of the norm, because I kind of see, looking at some of the numbers and the stats and stuff like that, and I see, in comparison to other topics, where we talk about radios, or we talk about propagation, or we talk about, something that's controversial in the POTA community. This one kind of just, sits a little bit quieter. So, we're going to wrap this up. I think it's an homage to hunters, but more so as I kind of do this and I start to prepare for it, I find it's a a call to us activators to understand the people that we interface with all the time. How they tick, how they do what they do, how they get through the pileups, how they become effective hunters. So hopefully this is some insight that you guys can kind of take away from this, and learn how to adapt it and use it in your activations when you're out there, looking for the pileup, or trying to make contacts, trying to pull people out of the weeds. These are the folks that, use a lot of these tools, use a lot of these concepts. And we're going to touch on the last part this week, wrapping up our Hunter series here. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a refresher. So we kind of started, very early on with the first episode. We were talking about hunter mindset. If you remember that, we were like, what's in the mind of a hunter? How do they do this? How do they get out and make contacts? What's that kind of look like? Episode 2, we talked about tactics. We, the tools, the capabilities, all the stuff that they use when they're out doing activations, and then how us as activators can apply some of those techniques. And then the last one is going to be talking about maturity, longevity, and respect. These are all 3 key things that I think are pretty clear, because it kind of came out last week. We were talking, and a lot of people in the chat had mentioned they did at the very beginning of the show, we did hey, name your favorite hunter kind of person that you talk to all the time. And everyone was kind of rattling off their favorite hunter that they know, that they always work with, that always finds them when they're out doing activations. And that kind of was a resounding, kind of mark for me to say that, oh yeah, those are the folks that are respected. Those are the people that we as activators listen for, either consciously or subconsciously. And when we hear their call sign, or we hear their voice, or their inflection, that we just know that they're the people that are there, and we're going to pull them out first. And so that kind of revolves around that last part: maturity, longevity, and respect. So let's talk a couple of topics here. So let's start with, let's dive over here, because I always like to go to my little session here, and I should have just hopped over the screen share already. So we're going to get into our series, our last part here, talking about smart hunters winning contacts. But the last part we talked about was, or we dove into a little bit last week, was great hunters build reputation, rhythm, and longevity. And how we're going to do that? Well, let me ask you the quick question. Have you ever heard an activator say your call sign and thought, they remember me? I mean, like I said, I touched upon it. We talked about it last week. It's not luck. It's definitely not the power behind their amplifier. It's operating maturity. And so today, man, I'm already thinking evening hours. My brain is already on high overload. That we're going to talk about timing.
What are we talking about again?
Yes, exactly.
So,
right.
Yeah,
My notes are all over the place here.
So when I've been an activator and I've had a hunter come back to me,
Okay.
I know we've mentioned this guy before, K9 ICP, right? I think is his call sign. And
Kilo 9 in your Charlie Papa, you mean?
yeah,
Please.
when he called me when I was on a POTA, I was like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I have your QSL card. It has a skeleton on it." And he was like, "Yeah, wow, I can't believe you remember that." But yeah, he's one of those guys that hunts a lot. And since he sent me the QSL card, and I love QSL cards, it made him memorable in a good
Yes.
way.
Yeah, 100%. So
You don't want
now,
to be remembered in a bad way.
well, yeah, you don't, because in essence, for many reasons, but yeah, I think you're 100%. So now my notes are all screwed up. So now I've got my right spot, and I'm back on track here. Thank you again for giving me that little segue there. So with our slide, obviously here, as we're talking about, the recap. And so we talked I love how AI, gives you the microphone, but you're not even microphone's facing down and the PTT's on the wrong side. So you're not even talking into the microphone per se in that picture. I don't know why, when I looked at it, I was like, what was AI trying to do there? I don't know. Anyway, sounds good. So, all right. So let's get into it.
It looks like I'm trying to shave my face.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here we go. This is what we're talking about here. So we're going to talk about advanced hunting strategy. Pileups have layers. Most hunters react. Advanced hunters anticipate. So we had already kind of talked a little bit about this one. Yes. Okay. There we go. Finally, I'm in the right spot. So with this, we're talking about three kind of key areas as a hunter. And so how this is applied as an activator, well, they're doing pretty much these three kind of steps. The good hunters are focusing on these three kind of key areas: their strategy, how they deal with their pileups, their how they hunt chasing parks, and then what that kind of looks like from them as, in that respect of overall, like them as hunters and how they're purposeful, how they execute, and, how we have that connection, that kindred connection that we were just mentioning earlier. All right, moving along here. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the propagational awareness and so this does go hand in hand with this. And so it might feel like it's a little bit out of whack, but here I had to kind of bring this to the attention. So as a hunter, and we're thinking again, like that hunting mindset. As a hunter, if I'm working the bands and I'm trying to find contacts or make contacts, I am 100% thinking propagational awareness. I'm thinking, where am I? Am I located West Coast, East Coast? Where's that gray line? What is the seasonal shift that's occurring? So like here in the Northeast, we literally live in Snowmageddon. That can affect, propagation and how and where signals are being heard from, versus being out in the Midwest in terms of, being in a mountainous area versus being in the plains, that kind of thing, as well as, just the overall seasonal climate can affect that. More dry, arid deserts, obviously going to, make that a little harder for you to hear connections. So this is what hunters are dealing with all the time when they're out there trying to scan the bands. I think a lot of us put in the mindset of, oh, I'm just going to plop down my radio, spin that VFO, and if I hear something, I'm going to make a contact. Yeah, I do that myself, but I know a lot of the more intelligent, the more seasoned hunters, they're spending a little bit more time setting up before they even touch that VFO. They're looking at all of the components that, we, talk about, or we just kind of rudimentarily just take a look at. Like I know as a hunter, an activator, before I get into the truck and go out to my POTA site, I'll pull up the propagation, K&A index, look at the numbers, kind of do a little quick weighted evaluation and say, whatever, I'm going to try it. If it's crappy either way, I'm still going out and doing a POTA. And that's kind of my way of just justifying, the whole condition set up. But I know those that are in their shack, those hunters, they're out there looking to understand what's going on and spend a little bit of time making more of a calculated assessment in terms of where they're going to be able to get the best bang for their buck when they're activating. Excuse me. Okay. So now we kind of set that a little bit. Let's talk about reading the activator. Funny thing with activators, some of them like to move geographically. Now, I know when I hunt the bands, what dictates for me is the frequency space I'm in. So if I'm on 20 meters, I'm going to start at the bottom of the band, or I'll start at the very top of the band, depending on where my VFO is sitting, and work all the way down or work all the way up. That's just something I developed, but it's not technically, it's not scientifically, a process that I created. It's just something I do habitually. Like when you're getting in front of your radio there, Shannon, do you have a system you kind of do to be able to find, activators or contacts, or you just kind of like nonchalantly just spin the VFO and see what happens?
It depends on, kind of what I'm trying to do, right? The typical ham radio answer, it depends. Sometimes,
Love
a
it.
lot of times, I'll start at, the technician portion of 10 meters. So depending on what band is open, right? But, start at the technician portion of 10 meters and look on my waterfall because I'm spoiled with a waterfall and, just kind of scroll up and stop at any strong signals and, listen for a few minutes, see what's going on. Is it a net? Is it a rag chew? Is it a POTA or a contest? And then, if I want to make contact, I make contact. If not, I move on to the next.
Mm.
But if I'm, specifically on a POTA, then usually I'll use, the POTA app and I have it sorted by frequency, I think. So I'll just, start at whatever highest frequency and just kind of go to the lowest frequency and just see what stations I can hear and what ones I can't. If I can hear them, I try to make contact.
Okay. Interesting. So you do a lot very much like a lot of us do, including myself. I was told early on growing up in the ham radio world that before we even had waterfalls and stuff like that, the gray line and understanding time and stuff like that is pretty critical in terms of where and who you're going to hear and what you're going to hear and what the best, it was told to me like it's a delicate dance, because in essence, wherever you are in the moment is going to play out as to where the signal propagation is going to play. And so some of the things that we see a lot more in the contesting world than I say per se, maybe in the hunting world, but it definitely bleeds over into that a lot, is that a lot of hunters will start pinning us. So say like you're on the East Coast, and we'll use that as a reference. When you're looking at the gray line, and I don't do this, but as I started to kind of look into more of this, if you're following the gray line and you're watching where the gray line is, the gray line in my mind when I first started in ham radio and still today, I think of the gray line as this small little line. Like it's just like it's drawn here on this little map. It's like, okay, that little space is, just there for visual reference, but it's actually not. It's a wide swath of space. I don't know what it looks like or how much it is or, how it's measured or whatever, but it's a big chunk. And if you look at that little, we'll say gray area, and that's kind of why they call it the gray line, because it's a gray area, may be the best opportunity as a hunter, depending on the mode, the frequency, the band, the time, to play along that line, because in essence, you might find that you might get a farther reach, say, either through skip or other methods, getting into, say, the West Coast or getting into Japan or getting into, Australia. Those types of signals might benefit you based off of where that gray line plays. And we could get into a huge, deep discussion about all of that in the propagation kind of side of things. And if it's something that's interesting to folks and they want us to kind of dive into, I'm happy to kind of break into the rabbit hole there. But the gray line's an interesting kind of big chunk of space. It's sort of like the no-fly zone, for like planes and stuff like that. It's like this just defined area, but not really defined by actual physical borders.
Well,
That,
if you
well,
want to go down a deep dive of the gray line, we know what the gray line is, right? It's, as we said from the Space Weather Woman, the day-night terminator, right? Sounds
yep.
kind of scary. Um,
I'll be
but
back.
so there's actually did you know there's 3 different levels of twilight?
Mm-hmm.
And what is gray line but like twilight, right? And it's kind of like an opposite, like, 3 different levels of dawn, right? Because we get the gray line twice, right? We get it when it comes at dawn, we get it when it
Mm-hmm.
comes at dusk.
Yep.
So that gray line can sort of be defined by those 3 different levels of twilight.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, you bring up a good point, is that you have to keep in mind that propagation, right? So when we're on 10 meters first thing in the morning here on, the East Coast, like I usually do, fairly early in the day activations when Miles is in school, right? So usually from like maybe 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when I have to go pick him up. So, you know, I'm not going to get to the West Coast probably of the United States on 10 meters at that time because it's still dark over there. So the propagation isn't going to go in that direction. That's, part of the reason why you get such good propagation to Europe and England and, maybe the West Coast of Africa there is because that is where the light is. So that is where the ionosphere is, you know,
Absorbing your
uh,
signals.
yeah. Well,
Well,
it's bouncing the signals.
possibly if you're lucky. So here's an interesting kind of scenario because this kind of played out, and it's happened to me on 2 separate occasions. So field day, we all go to summer field day at some level. Any of you guys been in a field day scenario where you've worked all night, and you said to yourself, like, my first field day, I want to do the full experience. I want to like play radio throughout the mid part of the night and into the dawn of the morning and stuff like that, and experience the change of bands based off of time frame, and then once you finally get into as Shannon was talking about, the twilight, the beginning of the morning, the sunrise, that type of stuff, it is really weird, but really cool to see that if you're playing on the radio and you're in a certain, say you're on 40, as an example, in the night hours for whatever, and you're working contacts, and then by the time the sun starts to come up and you're in that morning, kind of rise, you switch over to 20 or switch over to 10, or you're playing on, 12 or 15, you might find that, like, all of a sudden, like, this huge, like, influx of signals start coming in, or things start to change, or all of a sudden you're reaching farther and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm making contacts, like Shannon said, some halfway, over into South America, or, you're or into Alaska, or depending on what type the mode and time frame is. It's very cool to see that visually as your sun's rising, you're like, oh, I'm playing on this mode, I'm playing on this band. And it's just really cool to see what you come. And as it starts to kind of get lighter and stronger in the day, in the morning, those bands that you were like, oh my gosh, this is really cool, I'm making a lot of contacts, all of a sudden start to dry up fast. And it's like, they go away. And it's like, it's funny as all get out, because we did it the 24-hour POTA. I took the late shift, which was basically like from like 2 to like 6 in the morning. I think that's the time slot I got. I don't know, that's what I picked or whatever. And it was like Chris and I, Whiskey 8 CJ, were both sitting there freezing our asses off, but still having fun. And we're watching, like, we were both on 60 meters, and we're like, this is crazy. FT8 signals. No, was it? It was 40. I think it was 40. I can't remember what the band was, but we were like making contacts left and right and left and right. And that was like the biggest thing. That, we couldn't stop. It's like, wow, this is really awesome. And then as the sun started to rise up, all of a sudden it's just like, you could literally see someone turn off the faucet and the contacts just start to drip, 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 and then dead, flat. Like, I mean, it was like, what the hell's going on? And Chris and I kind of looked at each other and went, okay, all right. Well, that was kind of cool. That was fun. We can't put any more quarters in the band to get anything out of it. So let's kind of roll on. But that's kind of those experiences that you would see. And a lot like how the hunters play. I mean, like you get into contests, which we won't talk a whole lot here, but contesting, same thing. Contesters know exactly when Gray Line plays in and how to play it and what times of the day, and what bands effectively work to their benefit to make the most contact. So something to always kind of keep in mind. So the one question I want to throw out the chat here, and so I got it here. So any of you guys adjust your activator style, or you just kind of call and hope for when you're in, as a hunter? So I know a lot of us are activators, and so we go out, but I assume some of us play this, hunting role when we initially start, because I do it. And it seems to be a common, theme that everyone, like, they scan the bands, they just kind of hunt a little bit. Do you actually, in your activating style, when trying to hunt, you just call and hope, or you kind of just feel hunt and peck? Is your strategy? And if you have a strategy, let me know. Just put it in the chat there, and we'll share that in a bit. Okay. So next slide. This one's going to be a little tough one. This is kind of hunter etiquette, but I think is important that we all have to kind of consider as activators. The one thing that hunter etiquette is that it's going to sting a little, but it's going to matter. And as I say here, hunter etiquette is not about being soft. It's about being effective. And effective, not like screaming and yelling, not like overmodulating, not like any of the negative stuff that we talked about. We want to make sure that if you are, as a hunter, or you're listening for hunters, that you don't encourage bad behavior. Like, we all sort of do it. We all sort of deal with some of the poor etiquette that has kind of developed a little bit. And what I'm trying to do with this slide is just basically get that out there with the idea that, hey, as activators, you have an opportunity to be better and try a little bit more in terms of running a better activation, but more so allowing opportunities to kind of work their way out. And what I mean by that is, like, okay, you've got several hunters. I've seen this, and I do this with POTA Power Live, when we all have watched them live stream. There's a bunch of hunters that definitely follow the regular MO, and they wait for their turn, they wait for the QRZ, they wait for the conversation to kind of flow out, and then after they hear QRZ, they'll throw it out there, and they'll time it. there are some hunters that I know right in the middle that they know because Julie and Vaughn do their activation, and they're nice sometimes, but sometimes they're very good about like controlling their activation, which is awesome. And sorry to put them on the spot if they're in the chat there, but if they're not, no big deal. The idea is that they'll reel in a lot of the big pileups, and they'll use a lot of the same strategies we talked about before. You know, calling N1s, or looking for QRP stations, looking for DX only, that type of stuff. We're trying to help improve or diminish the bad behavior of a hunter just throwing out their call sign in the midst of whatever a conversation, because when you do that, you end up blocking other people from hearing stuff, and that might be good for you, but at the same time you also could be coming on top of maybe that activation. So the idea, as when you're thinking as a hunter, try to follow the DX code of conduct, like we always say, listen, and listen some more. But more so, find that rhythm, find that strategy, find how the activator is following their flow. All that being said is that it'll help you go in the long run. And this is kind of one of the things that I've seen with most hunters, is that they have a good etiquette when it comes to how they get into the pileup or get through the pileup, and they're not the ones creating the most noise. They're definitely the quieter ones, but they're ones that are clear. The call signs that are out there, they know how to do that. So all that being said is that basically you want to be one of those people that are following good process, because it'll help both the activation, and the activator can help the overall pileup there. All right. Next one. Okay. Respect QRP. This is a thing I think a lot of us activators do a great job of. I've seen it time and time again. I'm super excited to see that it's continuing. Is that a lot of times when the pileup goes along, and we've all seen the huge pileups, we've all seen the craziness that ensues. A lot of times, you'll see the noise, but you don't hear any call sign kind of thing. I think one of the things as an activator that you can, basically set yourself up for, and bringing in more of the contacts, is like, look for those QRP and weak activators, because what that does is it lets the rest of the audience know that's hunting you that you're not just taking whatever you kind of hear. You're looking for specific, and again, you can control. And I know there's a lot of chat gestion. What's that related to? I just saw that pop up there.
Look at the bottom of this graphic, man.
Oh.
You need to up your
Oh yeah, holy crap.
You need to up your proofreading game.
No, I refuse to. Me and AI, we like misspellings, and we used to use good grammar. I've already trained my AI. It's not going to happen. That's what you have. That's what you get when you do the slides like at 11:30 at night before you go to bed, and you don't really go through them. The one time. That's all I have to say. Just the one time. Anyway, so as an activator, looking for your QRP, folks, I think is a critical, important tactic to do, because in essence, it helps create space. It helps create this better flow. It helps create a standard across your activation. And the hunters know clearly that no matter how much they yell, no matter how much they kind of put their call sign out, following process, good or bad, that's not how you're doing your activation. That's not how you're running the show. And so that, for me, has been really good, because in essence, I put pauses in. I, basically give opportunities to stations that might be a lot weaker, following the QRP kind of approach. It has definitely helped my activation feel a little less stressful and a little bit more kind of fluid. I don't know. How about any feelings on that, Jen?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, that I am guilty of rewarding the bad behavior. So, if I'm trying to make a contact and you have that loud DX station that just keeps calling, um, you know, a, a lot of times I'll just, get them in a log as quick as I can to try to get them off so that I can, continue with my activation and continue with who I'm trying to make contact with. But when we are doing those things like calling for certain stations, calling by numbers, calling for QRP only, that's basically what we're trying to do, right? Is we're trying to thin the herd, make space. So, as hunters, if we can all, and I know we are all good doobies here. We're preaching to
Right.
the
Yep.
choir when we talk about this. But, if they're not calling for you, then don't call. Don't give your call sign. And just like Josh said on Ham Nation on Wednesday, because they were talking about the Bouvet Island, de-expedition, which I actually know someone that's on that de-expedition, Max, and NC4XL or N4XL, something like that is his call sign. I've met him multiple times in person before at Hamvention and at the ARRL and on our Adventures in Wonderland POTA parties. He's part of Wonderland. If you can't hear if you can't hear that de-expedition station, then don't bother throwing your call sign into the pileup, because you're not going to hear them if they come back to you anyway.
I know.
You're
Yeah.
just making more noise for other people.
100%. Yeah, especially for those that might be just a little bit adjacent to you or in the general regional area that can kind of hear you, but you can't hear the DX station or whatever. It's kind of silly of like, oh yeah, maybe they might hear me. Propagation might, all of a sudden bump up, No, it doesn't work that way. So I think kind of just to take away from this one thing is that hunters know and build their reputation on clean audio, good timing, not doubling, and quick exchanges. Those guys because in essence, like we talk about, Bruce, K9, India, Charlie, Papa. I mean, we've rattled off a few other people. Those are the folks that we appreciate working because in essence, they follow good process. They follow good strategy, not to get ahead of the line, but to find the opening in the line to be able to get their call out there in a way that, is respectful and makes you want to give them due process and time. So the next one, here we go. So this one I think is a really cool one. This is reputation. And we will have to talk about this a little bit because, as POTA activators and people in the POTA community in general, reputation is a big thing. In essence, we all like to recognize those that are like the big activators, in the top 10, the big activators, the big hunters in the top 10, those that have the awards, the accolades, and very much provide value back to the community in some form or fashion. But it also plays out in terms of your on-air etiquette. And we all know those hunters that have that, and we all are very happy to hear them and see them and talk to them. And, there are many sites examples. I mean, I keep going back to POTA Power, but I watch them because it's fun and enjoyable because they create a activation, obviously in their live stream, but they know how to treat those that treat them with respect in the two-way. And it's a great conversation because in essence, those hunters basically provide them obviously content for their channel, but it's not like just content. It's conversation, it's connection, it's relationship, it's respect, it's all of that kind of stuff we talk about. And that's why they enjoy bringing those same people on over and over again. And they're not, it's funny because you listen to this, there are a few people that are the same people over and over again. They obviously have patience. They have truckloads of patience to be able to get through, all of that stuff and just be there because they know that they'll be recognized. They know they'll be able to continue to, be brought to the front of the line to be able to, to have that contact and make that contact with you. So it's one of those things that I think, as we, as activators really strongly believe in that the hunters very much, are there to build a strong connection and a base. I'm trying to think of how to best phrase this because in essence, reputation is big for me when it comes out to, the POTA community. We all hate the lids. We all hear the tune-ups. We all hear all the negativity. And I always try to put that aside. And I know Mike had kind of said to Shannon's point, just giving the bad actors their quick due time to get them off the list kind of thing. But at the same time, it doesn't help that we as pretty well-seasoned activators do that habit over and over again, because when new POTA activators come into the thing, they aren't going to understand that, hey, we're paved the road for that bad behavior to happen. We need to kind of think in the sense that, hey, let's build that respect. Let's build that, structure with the idea that it's going to help those that are coming, after us to be able to reap the benefits of all that same stuff. So helping that, building a good, striking a delicate balance between both of that will definitely help in going the long way to keeping POTA as awesome it is, for the long haul. Okay. Anything you want to throw in there, Shannon? I think we're good.
No, just Bingo down in my chat, he was saying know the call sign before you call, which is a good thing, right? That kind of goes back to I can't find where is my chat not showing up in this chat here? Maybe
It
not.
should be.
So the problem with that is that when the activators don't give their call sign often enough. And I have sort of run into that a little bit, right? Like that goes back to the listening, right? Go on to the frequency where the person is, listen for a while, make sure you can hear them well enough um, to make the contact. But I have listened to some POTA activators that they really adhere to that giving their call sign like once every 10 minutes because they've made at least like 5 contacts and they haven't given their call sign. And I'm just like, I hear you. I want to make contact with you, but I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, that kind of, goes for all of us. And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but, I try to give my call sign, after every contact or at the beginning of every contact, every time I say, CQ or QR, QRZ, give my call sign first.
Thank you.
KC1 OHT for Parks on the Air, QRZ.
Thank you.
So, but at least then, because you don't know, somebody could have just happened upon your station and they don't know who you are. So
Mm-hmm.
don't assume that someone has been, listening to you for any amount of time. Really, just give your call sign.
100%. Now, I know Shannon mentioned that we were preaching to the choir here, and I know most of this content isn't new to a lot of you guys here that are our regulars, but in essence, we're obviously trying to reach a broader audience, and I find that a lot of new people that kind of come into my channel and even into the Brew and Activate community are like roughly new. They're learning about POTA, they're interested about POTA, and so getting this stuff out to them is important too as well, because in essence, hey, as a hunter, as an activator yourself, if you ever run into somebody who's like, oh well, I don't know how to do so and so, or you find that they may have a different opinion of something, you'd be like, hey, head over to N1JUR Brew and Activate. They had a long discussion about, hunters there. You should go listen to that. And that might help you, kind of get your mind right, as they say. So, and Mike, I know you're always in the naughty type. We'll have to deal with that one later.
Wow, that's another discussion.
Yeah,
for,
that's a different. That's a happy hour time frame. We're too early in the morning. All right, so this is an interesting one. I had to throw this in here because I think this is kind of important too as well. And this kind of goes both ways for activators and hunters, but I find it's still good things to kind of talk about. And so we all deal with burnout in some level or another, both in our jobs, our careers, our family life, whatever. It also goes into ham radio hand in hand. So one of the things I kind of want to throw out there is like, if you're not, we hear it a lot. Izzo preaches this a lot, smoke signals RF over on Ham Radio Clubhouse. If you're not having that 3-letter word, what we call fun, then why are you doing it? Well, that very much applies to POTA and hunting and, activating itself. The funny thing is that a lot of times people get into the POTA world for different levels, different reasons, different things. Some people are, numbers, chasing numbers. Some are doing the award kind of circuit. Some are just chasing alerts, that they want to get certain contacts for, different call signs, that type of stuff. For a long time when I got into the hobby, I ended up having a web page that was called The Hunt for, ham radio YouTubers. And, I was just all about like, who can I make contacts with that were, in the ham radio, YouTube community. And that page kind of fizzled a little bit, but it was fun to do. What ends up happening is that sometimes she just feels like work. Sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes it's a little challenge. Your frustration, if you find that, whether you're on the activation side or you're, the hunter side, and you get aggravated when tune-ups happen or people, cut in line or don't follow a good process and you're ready to rip them a new one, that might be a good signal for you to kind of step back a little bit to say, hey, what's going on? Because again, it's a hobby. In essence, this all could go away. It could all disappear tomorrow. And, what do you have at the very end of it? Well, hopefully a couple of good, few good memories and a bunch of contacts. But more so, it should be above and beyond that. So if you're starting to feel things get frustrated, try to switch, a couple of things around. Switch the bands, try a different mode. Take a week off. That's always an option. Put the radio away, put it off to the side. It's funny, you guys, on Live Free and Ham, when we do our ham radio week, there's been a couple of weeks that we've been doing. It's like, we haven't done much ham radio stuff. And it's like, we all kind of like beat ourselves up over it. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of needed a break a little bit. I kind of needed to like not do this or not, things. And the benefit to that is now I'm back a little bit more energized and I'm a little bit more excited to want to, participate in some of the activities that are out there, whether it's, making contacts on live streams, going out and doing my own POTA activation, just playing more on the radio. Try to always make the goal to have fun. We always say that. I think it's kind of a beat a dead horse, but it's really, really important because it'll help you stay in the hobby longer. Thoughts on that, Shannon? Because I got an interesting story I wanted to share.
Taking a ham radio detox. It's like, what did Mike just had like dry January or something like that. So,
Yeah,
you know,
like that.
it makes you appreciate it more if you take a little break from it and then you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is why I love this.
Mike didn't do a
So,
dry January from radio, though.
no, no, I didn't say from
I
radio.
know. I just wanted to clarify that just so people's like, he took a whole month of January off. I'm like, no, he was pumping content out left and right.
Um, but yeah, so that's definitely a thing. If it's not fun anymore, then you gotta take a step back, take a break, because this is supposed to be at the end of the day fun. We don't need to take it so seriously. And
Mhm.
yeah, Adirondack DFL there in chat. I like listening to a good POTA operator work the pile up. As a POTA activator here, I live for the pile up. So
Yep.
if I'm
We
not
all do.
making at least one contact a minute, I feel like it's a slow day.
Wow. Funny thing is I used to feel like that. And then I was like, you know what? If I even have the level and I know I'm probably speaking blasphemy, right? Like, I don't even care if I complete an activation sometimes.
What? No.
Exactly.
No
I used
activation left behind.
yeah, right. That's another T-shirt, but I don't think that's in Mike's. I don't think that's in Mike's wheelhouse there. So interesting story. Kind of like how many of you guys? And this is just a really big sidebar. Is like I find being in the ham radio community for a long time, like being in clubs and stuff like that. You ever go into clubs and been in there, and a lot of the older folk that have been in the hobby for 20 plus years, whatever, they don't talk about ham radio any longer. It's like they kind of burn themselves out. Like they talk about other new things that have kind of piqued their interest. And when you always try to bring like a new person into the midst and they start talking about ham radio, they just kind of go radio silent. And so what are you raising the roof for?
No, I'm thumping you. I think
Oh,
because you said something blasphemous about,
oh,
not
yes,
completing
right.
activations. Yep, Shannon wanted me to smack you.
Thanks. Sorry, Shannon. But hey, that's just the way it goes. I still learn a lot. But anyway, that's another story for another time. All being said is that like taking accurate, taking breaks, taking time off, stepping away doesn't mean you're going to be less in the hobby. The funny thing about our hobby is that it grows, it expands, and gets new things come in. But it's not like Fast and Furious, like the computer or gaming hobby is, or anything like that. Any of those things, like you literally have to stay lockstep with it to be able to stay up to date. But in the ham radio hobby, you can step away from a little bit. And I took a 20-year hiatus to go have family and career and stuff like that. When I got back in, I was super excited again, and I was invigorated. You can break those. You don't have to do a 20-year hiatus. You can do, a 24-hour or a week and just step away for a little while. And it's totally fine. You can still have your connections. You can still have your relationships. Like I said, we have things like Discord and YouTube and all that other stuff to keep, kind of in the mix. But it's good for the benefit of all of us, because who wants an angry hunter? It's not fun. Or an angry activator. I think it'd make great YouTube content if they flipped out and, they all did it on live stream, but I don't think that's a good thing for anybody by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, just stressing it, making sure if anything becomes exhausting, anything feels like a slog, don't be reactive. Just make it enjoyable. Step away. Take a little bit of time. Come back to it, and you'll feel that much better. And you'll have more compassion, and you'll be able to continue to maybe help, cure those bad behaviors down the road by
Well,
thinking of level head.
and the thing is that, as far as the hobby goes, right? The hobby of ham radio. So I have always said that my favorite part of the hobby is actually meeting other people and talking to other people. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be talking
On
all
the radio.
radio all the time, right? Or
Yep.
on the radio all the time. So, people have come up to me at Cara and when they have their Wednesday morning open houses, which if any of you guys are in the, Massachusetts, New Hampshire area, if you'd like to come to Gloucester, Cape Ann Amateur Radio Association, we have an open house every Wednesday
Gloucester.
from, yeah, Gloucester. um from 10 a.m. until I think 12 p.m. we have an open house with coffee and donuts, and we all sit around and chat, right? And somebody came up to me and they were like, Shannon, I think you are the only person that actually talks about ham radio at this club, at this meetup, because really it's a social club. And I
Mhm.
think the club actually may have even started from a CB club
Mhm.
back in like the 60s and 70s. And then people talk about like, oh yeah, all the CBers, they used to get together, they used to have cookouts, they used to, all the families, the kids grew up together. And, that's the part of ham radio and radio that I love, is how it brings people together and creates a community, right? Which, we're all part of the same family
Mhm.
here. It's like Olive Garden. We should have a live free in ham shirt that says, if you're here, you're hamily. I'll let you guys do that for live free and ham.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
give that to you for
Do you
free.
do you know how my backlog in t-shirts are so high and deep and wide that I don't think I'll ever get to it, but good idea. I'll put it on the replay there
Listen,
and
if you don't, I'll give it to Grouch if you don't want it,
go
but
ahead, dude, throw it at him. He's just as busy. Here, all right, we're gonna establish this on this show, and I'm gonna do this on. If you come up with the idea, guess what? You own it. Yeah, Misha, good to see you in there, man. Yeah, 3 hour contacts with 15 for 15 contacts. I've been there, done that, and those are definitely learning lessons for sure. And Chris, I saw Lost Nation Radio. Good to see you in there, man. Yeah, the Contest University stuff. Is that still? I don't think that's part of that stuff is free, but I think you have to pay into it. So correct me if I'm wrong there. But definitely good content for sure. I would hope if it's available to everybody to get access to, that they would go check that out for sure. All right, we've got.
yeah, 6 volt bus up there said, he's had a 38-year hibernation.
Dude, that's okay.
I'm guessing, is that like completely from radio? Same here. Set the station back up after a 38-year hibernation. He said his old rig doesn't even have the work bands. Well, don't tell Mike N2MAK that with Work Band Wednesday.
I know.
But yeah, definitely welcome back to the hobby. 6 volt bus. Welcome to whatever channel this is, N1JUR Brew and Activate. And we hope that you'll stick around, come back again, and we'll hear you on the bands.
Yep. Shannon's new here. She can't remember the channel. It's okay though.
It's that I've been on so many ham radio YouTubes
That's what I
in
said,
the past 3 weeks. I'm like, where am I again? I don't even know.
Your seminar circuit is about to come to an end soon.
Yes.
You come back to the normal world.
Yes. I'll have to come down off cloud 9.
You'll be a normie. Well.
Back with the little people.
Wow, thanks. You heard it here, guys. Little people. All right. Well, last slide here. We are talking kind of final takeaways. So yeah, this has been a tough, interesting kind of, we'll say, topic. I feel like a good stuff. I mean, hopefully everybody kind of got a good something to take away from it. I know, talking about hunting is not always glamorous. It's not always fun. It's not always like the latest buzzwords, but it's very integral, I think, to a lot of us activators, but in essence, the whole hobby as a whole. So, hopefully they can take away some stuff from this. And if you've got a few of your own, definitely, throw it in the chat. Let us know over on Discord because it is, conversation we always like to kind of keep going there. And that link again here is in the show note, in the chat there. Come on over and be part of that. We're gonna definitely be picking up some more deep dive topics. I think I've got an interesting coming up, but before we do that, just things you can kind of take away from here because I think that's always a good thing at the very end of this one. Let's bring this kind of home. So smart hunters, they always use the tools, they adapt, respect, anticipate, they build reputation. That's kind of the best mix, the perfect storm of a hunter. We all have seen and been witness to those folks that are out there and those names and call signs that we've thrown out there in the chat and previous chats. Those are the guys. Those are the unsung heroes. Those are the people that make the hobby that much better for us activators. You don't need more power. You just need maturity. I think that's a tough thing. And maturity, not in the sense of like, you just need to be more mature or the old adage of like, oh, go read a book and come back to me kind of attitude. No, it's not like that. Maturity is something you have to develop over time. So being curious, not judgmental kind of approach, learning new ways, watching, observing, talking with people, being part of that community, asking the open and honest questions of like, hey, I don't know how to do this. How do you do it? And I guarantee there'll be a ham out there that will always be like willing to share some of their insight, their experience, whatever. I always, in my Wednesday morning breakfasts with my local club here, there is always some ham conversation, and someone always comes up to me and is like, hey, how do you do this? Have you ever dealt with this? I'm like, no, I don't have any skill in this, but let me point you to over so-and-so over here. And they, I know they're way better at this. And so it's like kind of that network building that helps build maturity because in essence, people then become, better hams. And I always add the tagline with everybody I talk to, especially when they come to me and saying, dude, I'm so thankful you're around, you're able to help. I'm like, dude, whatever you've learned, pay it forward. Go to the next person, find a new ham, teach them what I've taught you, and keep doing it over and over again. And that's going to help build that maturity amongst all of us and make us better operators, better ham operators, and just make this community that much better. You don't need more alerts. You need awareness. That's kind of one of those things, talking about the propagation, gray line, all of those tools. And then the last thing is you don't need to win every pileup. I know I very much like to be in the center of a pileup, but you just need to enjoy the process. Learn, try to glean something from it. Try to see how activators flows work, how, the whole conversation plays out, when opportunities, and then try, new techniques. That's where you apply all this stuff is like when you're maybe working POTA Power Live, because those guys love that type of stuff. Or, when someone's doing an activation that and you hunt often, try those, skills, try mixing things up, learning to be better. Again, operational maturity is kind of thing. And so, as I always like to throw out to everybody, and this one's going to be in the Discord, last one, final question. This kind of goes for activators here, but more so activators in the realm of when you hunt before you actually do your activation. What hunter habit are you committing to improve this year? Let us know in the Discord. Head on over there. Share that with us for sure. Or if you are so inclined, you're watching this after, put it in the comments down below. We want to make sure, we're in communication, we're talking with one another, sharing some stuff. And for me, I think my one thing I'm going to improve this year is to provide better audio. I struggle with just leaving the default set. And we talked a whole series on, how to tune your radios. We're going to circle back on that a little bit more. And being able to provide the best audio quality that I can, both my mic, my radio, all that type of stuff, and that's my goal for 2026 in terms of trying to tune stuff up. Shannon, you got any? Hunter, you want to improve at all? Or you just good?
I don't know, maybe just hunting more, committing a little bit more time to being a hunter, not just, always being the activator.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that would be cool, just to go out and just do POTA only hunting from a park.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
do it anything else. Don't activate.
make activation just by hunting.
It would be funny because I have a feeling that most of the people that I in my circles, they're gonna have like the shakes. They're gonna have the uncontrollable. I've got to do this. I gotta spot my park. But it might be this like, okay, after I get over that hill, it might be more enjoyable.
Yeah, just make a like all park to park.
That'd be cool. Well, that's pretty easy, but yeah, sadly, the us activators, I abused it. We talked about it. Hey, park to park. You get to the front of the line every time. It's like that's like shooting fish in a barrel, as they say. So maybe just being a hunter.
That is one of those tricks. But
It
yeah,
is.
just do it as a hunter. Don't call
As a hunter. That's cool. Okay, well, yeah, like you, weak signal listening. Cool. Yeah, Misha, good point there. Good to share there, and definitely head over to the Discord or throw it in the comments below. So with that, bottom line, if you've missed any of the stuff that we talked about hunting series, you can always go back, check us out. We're on that podcast for Brew and Activate, and you can listen to all of those in the back catalog. But if you've been with us the whole way, like Shannon says, let's level up. Let's kind of do more hunting. Let's kind of be part of that aspect of POTA that we don't normally do. And remember, comm hunters always win. Guaranteed. We always know that because we can always hear them. All right. Let's put a little bow and wrap this up. So hopefully it was useful. I know we did a 3-part series, not the, the lackluster, super exciting, cutting edge stuff about POTA, but definitely a much needed conversation. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. Hopefully you can take stuff away from this and pass it on maybe to another POTA activator or hunter. And so make sure you subscribe and like and share both Shannon's channel and my channel. Those links are all in the description down below. And as always, head over to the Discord. Let's continue this conversation. Let's continue to move the needle a little bit more on that and share and learn and grow from one another. And lastly, last two things, we always have the POTA, why did I just forget what I called it? The field guide. Yes, the field guide. Yes, I know. We haven't touched much about the field guide, but I've been adding to it as we continue to go. So we're going to kind of bring that full circle back around next week, talk a little bit about that, remind people of that. That's still available resource out there, and one that we want to kind of build and use as a community resource for, us today and future POTA activators and hunters alike. So that'll be out there. And you can contribute to that if you want to. And that link is in the description below. And lastly, next week, we are going to be getting into some interesting stuff. I kind of been toying around with the idea of SO2R with POTA. I think there's something there to talk about. And so, I know that probably triggers a few contesters that are out there that are thinking, oh, SO2R, I know what that's all about. Well, we're going to see about maybe adapting that and how you can play around with that in the POTA world, because I think there's something interesting that could maybe come from it. I don't know. We might end up killing ourselves trying to do it, but it might be something worthwhile. So stay tuned for that next week. And all right, as always, thank you again from Shannon and I for hanging out with us today on Brew and Activate. It's been a blast. We always enjoy hanging out with all you guys. So definitely be part of the community. Come hang out with us. Check everything out on our channels as well. And remember, whether you're activating, hunting, the goal is simple. Have fun. Stay safe. Keep exploring. And until next time, Shannon, keep your radios on.
Yep. I can never remember this. We got to write
Oh
it
my
down.
gosh. Okay, fine.
Keep your radios on. Something about the push top
PTT down and POTA on.
POTA on.
7-3, guys.
7-3.